Hey, Coach. My question is regarding, I want to know your thoughts and concerns on Boston College quarterback Phil Jerkovich.
Yeah, I think he's a really good player. He's a big kid. I think you don't realize how big he is. So, I think it probably in the Duke game, I was watching that game live. So I think early on you see him scramble a couple times. You're like, man, like you see him get tackled. You're like, man, you realize how big a kid he is. So, he's a really highly recruited kid out of high school. I think it was a huge get for them to get him in school and get him eligible. And I think he really makes the whole thing go. A lot of the stuff they do is him, and we're still going to have to do a great job with him. The way he keeps plays alive and scrambles, and they do a good job moving the pocket with him. I think he's a really good player.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, CL Brown, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. I was curious, were you involved a lot on Jaquarius Conley's recruiting?
Yeah, I was very involved.
Okay, I was wondering, did you have to claim him for the defense? Like, did you guys debate whether he was going to be? Because I know he played a lot of different positions offensively in high school. Was he just come across as a natural born safety?
I think Jaquarius can do a lot of things. So since I was recruiting him, I kept him at defense. But yeah, I went to watch him play in the Battle of Jacksonville, Northside versus Jacksonville in like November or October last year. And he made about every tackle on defense. And then on offense, they put him at receiver and threw it to him, and they put him at running back and handed it to him. So I think he can do a lot of things. But his future, I think he could play running back. His future really is as a defensive back.
Yeah. And does he come across as a kid that you have to do you have to pull his talent out of him, for lack of a better way to describe that? Like, from other people I talked to, they're talking about his just kind of humble nature. And even he told us last week that he expected to redshirt this year. He didn't necessarily think he was going to play. So is he somebody you have to kind of reinforce that you have the talent, you can do this?
So he's a pretty quiet kid, but I think he's also very confident. And when we recruited him, I was very clear to him that I think his ability, we thought he would impact us pretty early. I don't know if we thought he'd be as impactful as he is right now, but about the second day we were doing walkthroughs and stuff, Coach Brown grabbed me and said, that one there's a little different, So I think, I think early on we realized that we had to find a way to get him. And so early on it was going to be, hey, look, he was going to be the 6 DB and some of the, extra DB stuff. And then it just, when we put him at nickel, he really just kind of took off. And he's a big kid, so I think when we put him at nickel, it solves some of your problems about the nickel in the run game. There were times this summer he was around 220. He's not quite that heavy right now, but, so I think he's one of those examples of a kid who came in and just worked and kind of forced us to play him a little bit. And I'm excited to see him, the next few weeks for sure.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, I wanted to ask about Jeremiah Gimmel and just how he's developed since last year and kind of what he provides there in the middle alongside of Chaz.
Yeah. I don't know, Greg, I don't know how long we got. First of all, he's a terrific football player. He's really talented. He's fast. He's faster than you think he is. Physical. Every team that I talk to that plays us that we're not playing again and will give me the straight, skinny on kind of what they thought of us. He's one of the first kids they talk about. So, he's obviously a really good player, but I think his leadership, the demands he puts on the other kids around him. I don't have to get on kids in practice. Jeremiah does, and I think, there are calls we talk about, like, look, just tell Gimmel to do this, and he runs it for us. So he is the quarterback of the defense in every way, shape, and form, and a really, really important part of our defense.
Thanks, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Andrew Jones, you are up.
Hey, Coach, a lot of the guys rave about Jaquarius's athletic ability and that he stepped on the field, kind of like what you just alluded to, looked ready to play right away. But how is he handling the responsibility that he now has where he's got a lot on his shoulders and has only played one game in college?
Yeah, I think that's been the part he's got to work on, but he's worked really hard. And then, you know, I give our other kids in that room a lot of credit, you know, because they've really, you know, spent a lot of time with him, you know, and he spent a lot of time too, you know, learning, you know, what I do in this coverage, what I do in this check. But I mean, I think early on, you know, we could tell that physically he was talented. Then it became, okay, now he's got to earn it. And he went out and did it, you know, and so, you know, it was very obvious to us that like once he got it, he was going to be a really important part of the defense.
Jeremiah said last week that previously he was, you know, Jaquarius would look at him kind of, what do I do here? What do I do here? And he said he was starting to tell him what he was going to do before the player in certain situations. Are you seeing that from him? And how good a sign is that, knowing that the kid is starting to exude that kind of confidence?
Yeah. So I think Gimmel runs, you know, Gimmel's a very demonstrative kid, right? So you know, so Gimmel's going to kind of overrule some things sometimes. But the thing that's going on now is like he's not having to communicate with JQ. Hey, look, you're doing this. Now JQ's communicating to him, and so now Gimmel can focus a little more on the other stuff. And but you know, the other thing, JQ's got is, you know, he's either playing with Don, you know, who's really smart, or he's playing with Trey, who plays that position also. So he's got guys that are helping him. And the other thing is, I mean, it's not open heart surgery, right? It's you know, you're playing 3 deep or you're playing quarters, right? So like, I mean, he can figure it out. I mean, if it was that hard, I wouldn't be a very smart D coordinator, right? So simplicity is the key. So you know, I think part of it is, you know, once he kind of understands how the wording works, then he pretty much understands what he's doing.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay, Aaron Beard, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, Aaron Beard with the AP. Max talked a lot about starting the season over basically because of this long gap since the opener. What did you think you could get accomplished, or what did you hope you could get accomplished during this time? And, you know, is there any carryover at all from game one? At least you have a game of experience, even though it was all the way back at September 12th.
Yeah, you know, it's been pretty unique. The thing about the first, you know, the week we were getting ready to go play Charlotte was we were preparing for an opponent, you know, so our kids were having to watch film and learn checks and hey, look, they're going to do this here and some of those things. So that was, I mean, Mac told us that practice was over and he said, hey, we're not playing. So on Thursday. So I think that allowed us to really, you know, get another dry run at an opponent, even though we didn't play them. And so now I think, you know, what we spent a lot of time on last week was, you know, and it was still hard because some, like Virginia Tech hadn't played, and some of the teams that we're going to play the next 4 or 5 weeks had only played once or at all or none at all. So we tried to work on some things that we think are going to show up in the next, you know, 3 or 4 games. But yeah, I mean, you know, Coach, we came in and reset it and said, look, go back to training camp rules on everything, and let's go work on our base stuff. And then we got a little more individual time, and I think that part was great.
Thanks, Jay.
Sure.
Okay, Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, Ross Martin inside Carolina. What challenges has Trey had with the move to safety, or what do you really like about, you know, how he's doing there, moving to safety after playing nickelback in the first game?
Yeah, I mean, we really played Trey at safety, you know, kind of leading up to the Syracuse game, kind of thinking we'd get a little bit different attack out of Syracuse than we did. And then once we kind of got settled in, I just felt, you know, it was JQ's first college game ever. I wanted to try to manage his workload a little bit. And then you know, the main kind of the second kind of quarter of that game, we had the ball in, you know, they had the ball in some pretty advantageous field position. We kind of wanted to go with our older kids. I think if you ask Trey, I mean, he practiced, like Trey went into that game. I went into that game thinking he was going to play more safety than nickel. So, you know, we've been working, you know, and I think this is a tribute to Coach Brown, and there's a reason he's got a Hall of Fame plaque, right? Like we've been working on this since we got back. Like, hey, look, guys, you know, we could find out on Friday these 5 kids can't play. And so you can't just throw your arms up and say, oh, well, gosh, we don't have any of these guys. Like, you better have some answers. And so, we've got packages involving one safety and three safeties and, 3 outside backers and no outside backers, because you better have a way to go play and compete and get your best guys on the field. And so we've been cross-training a lot of those DBs. Don Chapman has taken reps at about everything. Trey's taking reps at about everything. So I think if you don't do that, then you're being a little bit naive. And so, I mean, I think it was really, I don't think they blinked really when we had to make the change we did.
And how's Patrice Rene progressing? I mean, I know he didn't play too much against Syracuse, and obviously he's a veteran cornerback for y'all, playing behind Storm Duck and Kyle McMichael. I
think Patrice is progressing well. I think, Storm's really kind of taken a lead role in that room. And I think, Patrice and Kyler, I think Obi Igbuna has improved a ton. I think Dede Hollins was a guy that was going to play a lot and then kind of got nicked up before that first game. He's back ready to go. So I think that's a really competitive room. And then we got a young kid who's coming along really fast. So, I think Dre's done a great job with those kids. And honestly, I think all of them can play. I think the hardest part is managing the reps. But right now, Storm and Kyler we think are playing at the highest level. Now we're going to go out on Tuesday and find out. But that's kind of where we are right now with that room.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's wrap this up with Chapel Fowler. Chapel, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Chapel Fowler with the News and Observer. I was just wondering, what are your memories of coaching Jeff Haffley at Siena College?
He is a great dude. He was really tough. He was not very fast, like most coaches, right? He was way better coach and player. Don't tell him he probably hear this, but don't tell him I said that. But just a really smart. Kids loved him. Has been a leader, I think, his whole life, and he's gonna. He already is doing a great job. So, I'm looking forward to competing against him. But I love the kid.
Thank you.
All right, Coach Bateman, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.